Hi, everyone, and welcome to the Fargo Dome Tailgating Lots. The gang's back together again. It's NDSU wrapping up its spring football with the annual green and gold game inside the Dome here in a little while's time, along with Fargo Biggie, Eric Peterson, and Jeff Kolpack. I'm Dom Izzo. It seems hard to imagine, actually, that spring ball is done, considering we've been talking football nonstop since Frisco, which was just 15 weeks ago, and we're 18 weeks out from the FCS kickoff game with Charleston Southern. But today is a big day inside the Dome.
Well, it's a big day, I think, for a lot of the young guys, because I think this spring game, the way it's evolved over the last couple of years, and probably maybe a little longer than that, just because of the injury factor, that, the stars are not going to play much. They're just not. Why would you? Why would you put Nick DeLuca out there for a whole game, or some of your offensive weapons? So it's a big deal for these young freshmen especially.
Let's talk about some of those young guys, especially on the offensive line. Now, granted, they have a few guys back, but the one spot that at least I focus on, I know you do too, is a great offensive line. Mine is left tackle.
Yeah, left tackle, you got a freshman over there. When you're backing up guys like Billy Turner and Joe Haig, that's some big shoes to fill. Billy Turner came in and played as a true freshman, but not at the beginning of the year. It took a few games, so this is going to be important for a guy like Colin Connor and even the younger Zach Johnson. Colin Connor's at the top of the depth chart right now, but who knows, that could change before fall, because I have a feeling those two are pretty even right now.
Well, when I hear all the athleticism the young Zach Johnson possesses, that he just hasn't picked up everything yet, but that's a spot, obviously, that's going to have our attention for a while.
Yeah, he's 6'6", 297 pounds. At least he's listed by that right now. Right. You got to figure by fall that'll certainly be north of 300. But they love his athleticism. He has that lanky frame, I think, the long arms, what you're looking for. They see it probably some Joe Haig in him. You got to be athletic at that position. You just can't be big.
Well, the other option is if you go through this spring and fall and you don't feel comfortable with one of the young guys, do you move Landon Leckler to the left side?
That's a possibility.
And put one of those younger guys on the right side. That's one thing that could play out as this whole offensive line thing evolves.
We're in the complete opposite spot that we were last year, where there were a ton of question marks on defense. That is not the case for this 2016 team. Only a couple of spots. We'll talk about corner in a second. But there is a lot of guys back on the defensive side of the ball.
Well, all the attention lately has been on offense. And why is that? Because of Carson Wentz.
Yes.
Will he be number one or number two? Offense, quarterback, offense. But the reason this program's won 5 titles is because the defense has been the best, unquestionably the best defense over that 5-year period in the FCS. Now, who's going to play that role this year as far as a shutdown corner? That's the big position, I think, that has to be replaced.
Yeah.
Who's going to be the next C.J. Smith? Jalen Allison, although I think he's been hurt a little bit, will be that guy. But I think potentially this defense has the chance to be better than last year.
Allison showed flashes of it too last year, Biggie, when he had to step in when C.J. Smith and Jordan Champion were both hurt. Of course, he had the big pick 6 against Montana.
Well, you hope it's just the passing of a guard. They talk about how much Marcus Williams impacted C.J. Smith and the player he became. So did C.J. Smith pass some of that stuff along? And I'm sure he did down to the players like Jalen Allison, Dakota Reed. But the key with Jalen Allison, now he's got to be the guy. It's one thing to be the second corner, get a pick 6, be opportunistic. But now when you're the guy, and there's a guy by the name of Cooper Kupp who's come in here first game, some of the receivers that they're going to face, Jake Winicky, it's going to be some trial by fire if you're the top corner on this team come next season.
Let's talk linebacker, because that's a spot you and I have harped on with Chris Kleiman, it seems like, for a while. MJ Stump, Nick DeLuca, Pierre G. Tucker played basically 98% of the snaps last year. Who are going to be the guys that need to step up to give those guys a little bit of a break?
Well, it's got to be Dan Marlette, although, again, he's been hurt.
He's hurt, and he likely won't play today.
He probably won't hurt. And you got a guy like Matt Plank, who's now going to be in his 4th year in the program
next year.
How about Chris Ford?
Now, he moved over from the secondary into linebacker during the season last year.
Well, he can certainly hit like a linebacker. Yeah. We saw that when he was a safety. Now can he pick up the defense? A huge game for him today, isn't it?
I think so. And I'll look at, the 2 redshirt freshmen now, Aaron Mercadell and Jake Brinkman, who both redshirted last year, that have all the athletic tools. It's just about making sure if they can click with this defense.
I think you need it. I mean, obviously you're focused on next season, but you have 3 seniors again. That happened with the year before with Littlejohn, Beck, and Thornton. You want to at least give some of these backups some seasoning. You don't want to come into the following season with 3 guys who haven't seen the field at all. So I think it's important. Obviously, you have the top 3 guys who are good, but you want backing behind that and some of those second-teamers to get some seasoning.
Quarterback. We know about Easton Stick, but his backup is, I think, a position that bears watching. Cole Davis is right now entrenched as the number 2. James Hendricks is going to get plenty of reps today, the kid out of Bemidji, who Chris Kleiman tells us he really likes his athleticism.
The coaches say once again this spring that Cole Davis has improved. I think one coach said dramatically. I'm not really sure what that means, but James Hendricks is the third guy, and don't underestimate the third guy, so you never know when you have to get to him. The important thing is that he proves he's at this level and he can play at the speed of the game.
Wide receiver is a spot I'm watching today. Dimitri Williams, who's a sophomore, played as a true freshman last year. He's got electric speed. And another guy that Bison fans probably don't know is Dallas Freeman.
Dallas Freeman is a walk-on from down in St. Michael, Albertville, which is
Jared Essler's school.
And he came on. He's one of these guys you never heard anything about, but we saw glimpses of practice this year. Every time I walked in, he was making a play.
Exactly
he just was. And you hear about guys who, these walk-ons that come from nowhere. He may be the next guy some walk-on that comes from nowhere who plays a big role.
Well, maybe even back to the quarterback situation. Henry Van Dellen's coming in next year. Does he become the backup, or do they feel like James Hendricks and Cole Davis are good enough to be the backup? Because a couple of years ago, if you remember, Easton Stick as a true freshman was the backup. Granted, Carson Wentz stayed healthy and they never had to play, so that's another thing to watch. I think that's a big spring for those two guys because Henry Van Dellen's a highly touted guy coming in, so to hold that number 2 spot, there's even competition that's not even here right now.
I'm watching Connor Wentz today, too. By all accounts, he's had a tremendous spring and can really solidify him being the guy at tight end.
Well, and he's the heir apparent to, I think, a couple of pretty good players who left the team last year, certainly Andrew Bonnet
and Lucas Albers.
And Luke Albers. I mean, those are 2 big pieces of the puzzle. The tight end's very important in the Bison offense because you got to run block, and you got to do routes, and it's a variety of things. I'm also looking to see if Ben Ellison. He's a freshman who's getting some note, too.
You saw Ellison obviously play in high school at Holly.
I have the question: are we going to be able to see a pass-catching tight end again? You haven't really seen that. Other Matt Velbin's the last true pass-catching guy.
Botland just developed into it.
Yeah, but I mean a guy who you might catch 5 or 6 passes a game and 67 yards, and maybe this offense.
But a guy that has to be multiple. Ilias is a pass-catching guy.
So maybe it's Ilias, maybe it's Ben Ellison. One of those guys emerge as the pass-catching guy. And like you said, Connor Wentz is more of the Albers, drop the hammer, run block tight end.
How about fullback as a spot? I know it's not a glamorous spot, but obviously that's one that's open after the graduations of Jed Resear and Andrew Bonnet.
A couple true freshman walk-ons getting the first glimpse there. I should say walk-ons. You got
Robbins is
a recruit and highly recruited. I think he's the starter right now. But that's a position you can change up to. Well, Chase Morlock plays some fullback come the fall. That's a tough spot to have 2 freshmen in.
Well, I think you might see some sets like last year. We had Jed Resear and Bonnet in, and Morlock plays the Bonnet role, and Brock Robbins plays the Sear role. So you have a veteran kind of helping out a younger player in that situation.
The running backs in this program right now might be an all-time high. When you have King Frazier, you've got Chase Morlock back as seniors, Lance Dunn, who's entering his 3rd year in the program. Then obviously you've got Bruce Anderson, who was amazing last year as a true freshman, and then a guy who redshirted last year in Damaris Purifoy. I mean, this is unbelievable, the kind of depth they have at this spot.
And they love the athletic ability of Purifoy, and he's really bulked himself up since he got here. When he got here, he was a little on the thin side, should we say. Now that's no longer the case. We'll see how physical he is today against a physical defense.
Should be fun to watch, folks. Spring game coming up at 1:30. Jeff and I will be back post-game to wrap things up. It's a normal Saturday at the Fargo Dome as NDSU wraps up spring football for 2016.